Hi families, I hope you're doing well. This video is more directed towards you and to helping you figure out everything that I sent home and what to do with all of it. The beginning portion of this is going to be about the packet that I sent home. That's the same for each person. And then I'm going to go into things at the end of my video that's more individualized for different students. Alrighty, so this is just an intro page. I sent home a lot of visuals because I want to try and make my videos as interactive as possible. So as I move to different parts of my house, mainly for daily living skills, you can ask your student like, oh, what part of the house are they in? Or what part of the house do we clean dishes in? And then we can work on kitchen or what have you. In my subsequent videos, I'll utilize these things more, and then I will try and show them in the video too, so you can know to pull them out. Same with this, when I incorporate videos that have to do with the community, which will be more on our Fun Fridays videos, then we can use this to make it a little bit more interactive. I printed this out just so that way we can practice having the students recognize what day of the week is. So when I show them using my lovely little calendar here, you can pause it and like focus on Thursday and then say, hey, can you find Thursday? So then that way they're matching the letters. Same with the days of the week. That way it's a little bit more interactive. I totally would have laminated this for all of you guys, but I did not have time. Same thing with feelings. That way if I incorporate some feelings into my lesson, we can have them practice working on that. This is a sequencing activity, which I will do on some Fun Friday when we talk about the bus. Until then, don't worry about it. Same with this one. This has to do with just making the class a little bit more interactive. You can either keep it as one paper or cut it out in yes and no. So if I ask questions, what we do in class is we have them raise up the correct answer a lot, just so they're practicing this communication skill and making the lessons more interactive. The next couple pages all have to do with the weather, and again, trying to help the students learn the difference between hot and cold and how to dress appropriately. So they kind of have a reference sheet. You can pause my videos and give them time to try and figure out. If I say, oh, today's a warm day, let's look at hot. What do we wear when it's hot? And then you can help them see on here and then choose it appropriately on their paper. Same with the cold. So the first step is to figure out if it's hot or cold, and then use your reference to figure this out. This is something that a lot of the students struggle with, so I want to try and give as many resources as possible. This paper just provides another reference to help the students have a visual of what the weather is. So if they need it, you can use this to say, oh, let's go outside and check what the weather is. This next sort of packet that I accidentally stapled together all has to do with communication skills and speech skills. This is going to be more applicable for some students than other ones, but again, it was just easier to send the packet to everyone. And it's something that even if your child may not be able to verbally communicate, they can use their communication device, or you can model it with other members of your family. So this first sheet is just to try and help with back and forth communication. Some of my students are really good at initiating conversations, but then that communication ends after a couple exchanges. So this way we can remind them, oh, when we're having a conversation, you have to either ask me a question or say something. And you want them to try and do it all on topic, which is why I provided all these topics for them. And what I suggest you do is you cut them out and then lay one at a time. Some of them are very specific. For example, Smallville or JoJo, they might not apply at all to your child, but it's because I put everyone's interest in this one packet. So basically that's the front page to try and encourage back and forth communication. And this is a script, 2 script examples that might be necessary to help promote that communication. So you can say, like, for instance, if our topic is on zoo animals, they can learn to say like, I like elephants, or I like to see the animals go in the water. Or they can practice asking questions. Do you like elephants? What do you like to do at the zoo? This is just a prompt. They can ask any sort of what questions or any sort of statements. For instance, I remember going to the zoo when I was little. That's excellent. This is just if the students need more support in terms of prompts. I wrote this all down and explained it, but I'm going to explain it here more. Basically, this is the game where you're going to rip this paper up into little pieces or cut it, whatever, and practice having your child talk on topic. So if you cut these out, let's say we're talking about Toy Story. You cut it out and you put it in the green part. And you want to encourage your son or daughter to talk about things that are on topic about Toy Story. So if they say, Toy Story is my favorite movie, then encourage them to put one of these pieces into the middle and say, that's great. That's on topic. Again, the Toy Story picture will be in there. And then you can model it for them and say, my favorite character is Woody. Again, it goes in the green spot. Now, if your son or daughter says something that's off topic, for example, I like jewelry. Off topic, you're gonna put that piece into the red and say, uh-oh, that's not about Toy Story. Can you try again? And then give them another opportunity. If you need, you can model it. Again, if your son or daughter is nonverbal, this is something you can model for them with other family members, or you can provide other pictures for them as well. Another option for this is to use a story instead, which would be great if I had taken a story home. I literally don't have any books in my house, so excuse me while I'm using this book that my boyfriend made me with pictures of us. So for instance, let's say that we have your story. Instead of using this at all, we're not using this. This is instead, whatever story you choose, is instead of using these visuals. This is a little bit simpler version, so you can have your son or daughter mention something that's in the photo. So they can mention, oh, I was standing in a big tree, or I like the pretty background, or have you ever been to Yosemite? So you're still following that question or comment strategy, but with a picture book instead. So you can use something that they enjoy, for instance, ocean animals or Disneyland or Smallville or whatever it is that they enjoy, you can use. If you don't have books like I don't at home, you can use images on the internet as well. I hope that makes some sense. So that is this package, and again, it's explained, but feel free to message me if you have any questions about that. If your son or daughter has siblings at home, I encourage you all to play together. I'm gonna try and do a Zoom call where we could all use these and play together, but that's in the works. This is just a visual. I'm not sure if it's been a concern at all at home, but I was worried that our students might have a difficult time understanding the difference between a weekday when we're doing school at home and a weekend where you're doing your normal weekend business. So basically I sent home these two papers. Use it as you please. You can just put this up on Monday through Friday just to remind them today's school at home with my face. Or this one I use, like today, we'll relax at home for weekends, for weekdays. If you need it, awesome. If your son or daughter is not having any behavior problems and they're not having an issue distinguishing between the days, just ignore it. Use it as you need. And then lastly, I made some first thens. Again, if necessary. I know some of my students are super cooperative and happy to work, but I can imagine it's a little bit different when they're at home. So I made it very generic instead of in class where we switch the pictures. Basically, first we work, then we get to relax. And this is the same break picture that we use in class, so hopefully that helps them. You can cut that out, that's one option, or if you wanna have them watch the videos I'm sending out, then do some work, either from their goal binder or some of the stuff I'm posting online, and then relax, that works. And you could do this several times. They could do it after a break, repeat with maybe a different video, or just work tasks. That's like the goal things that we send home. So that's the packet. Now, I, between the last 3 weeks, sent things home that Friday before the students left, that Monday when I was allowed to go back, and then yesterday via transportation. I don't even remember what's at each of the students' houses. So if there's anything that you had sent home and you're kind of like, I don't know what this is or what she wants me to do with it, call me, message me, whatever you need, and I can explain it. The stuff that I can remember sending home, I'm going to explain now. So this next part might be applicable for your son or daughter. It might not be. Sorry. A few of my students have goals pertaining to following a simple recipe. However, in class, I found that practicing making a recipe only once or twice a week was not cutting it. So basically, I have these felt sandwich pieces, and the goal is for the student to make a simple sandwich. What I would like them to do is to do it in order. So just like in a recipe, you follow an order, and it's left to right, top to bottom, just like reading, so that we're practicing lots of different skills in one. The idea is first to get the bread, then for this one, some ketchup, some salami, and last, some bologna. Please don't judge how gross these sandwiches sound. I was limited with my pieces. And then they have to put the top back on. But what I want is them to be able to go in order. And the goal is to prompt them as little as possible. So, and we've practiced this with all of the students in class. So the idea is you don't tell them anything and they put it together. If they're not able to do that, then all I want you to do is sort of point to the first picture. And if they're still struggling, then you can also give them a verbal prompt. Grab the bread, or what's next? But instead of doing that right away, you try and let them do as much as they can on their own. Since it's been a little while, they might need it modeled the first time. So when I sit down with the students, sometimes I say, oh, first Miss Sabrina needs her bread. Then she needs her ketchup. Now she needs some salami and some ham. Miss Sabrina finished making her sandwich. Nice. Once you've modeled it for them, you can give them a new paper and then try and let them do it. Again, only prompting them as much as necessary. Several of the students I sent home with this paper that mimics a cell phone keyboard. In class, I have several actual phones, but I didn't have enough to send them home with each student. So I sent this home instead. And the idea is that they practice putting in their phone number. A few of my students can do this completely by themselves, and a few students require assistance. For the students that require assistance, what I have found most effective is, let's say, 2, 1, 3, 9, 5, 7, 4. Made up number. I sent home papers with all of the students who have this goal with their actual phone number. But what I found to be most effective is to help them figure out patterns in their phone number. So instead of just copying it, you cover this up and model for them. Oh, 714, and then let them try. 714, 714. You practice a few times, you have them practice. And then as time goes by, provide less support. Once they've mastered those first 3 digits, then you go to the next 3 digits. Oh, now let's try 213, 213, so forth. Some of my students are still working on those first 3, some are working on the 6. Some of them I've divided up differently. For instance, if they have a phone number that has a fun pattern in the middle, I might have them do that instead. Like some students have like 090, which is just an easier pattern for them to remember, but it's not necessarily in the right order. Use your discretion. What's important is that they're just practicing every single day. Some of the students might know their whole phone number and only need a prompt in one place. For instance, I have a student who might be able to do this whole first 6 digits, 714, 213, and then they start going back to 714. So then a prompt would just be to point at 9 or just say 9. You do as little as possible just to have them practice. Some of my students can do this all on their own and they just need practice to maintain that skill because we don't want them to come back and completely have forgotten. Other students are still practicing to learn the skill. Again, if you have any questions, please call me. Another thing that I sent home to several students is this cube worksheet thing. I would suggest you actually cut these out and have them in mini strips. That's how we do it in class. Let me show you. Just like this. And then the idea is that they find 2 black and 3 yellow cubes. Apparently I had a typo on this one, so if I sent home a typo, my apologies. That's a more simple version. If you would like to make it harder, don't have them laid on top, just have them count 2 blacks and connect it to the 3 yellows. If they can do that as well, you make it just auditory. You tell them 2 blacks and 3 yellows, but you don't show them this. You could also write it on the back, so it's just written. The idea is to try and continuously make it harder for them. But this is cool because they're not only practicing math, but they're also practicing their receptive language to like listen for those 2 steps of whatever they need. This is how we use it in class. And so I sent home lots of different options, starting with just following the 1 steps and then later to following 2 different steps. You can also totally make up your own at home as well. It's cool too because these pieces that I sent home with many of the students can also be used as a work task. So if they're not matching it for number purposes, you can have them match it just by color, or you can create a pattern and then see if they can mimic the pattern. Just gives you a few more options of things to do at home. In terms of the dollar up method, I have a few different ways of doing this in class. One way is I would just write a number for the students, $3.22, and then have them practice using the dollar up method. The idea is to do it independently where they point, say 3, count 1, 2, 3, 1 more dollar, and then pick up the money and hand it to you. I don't want them to count it directly into your hand because that's not how it works in the community. You like hand over all the money. If necessary, I would underline this to help them focus on that's the number they need to get first. But if your son or daughter can do it without that, focus on that first. I also, in class, would take visual or take pictures when we're out in the community of what it actually looks like when you make a purchase, because they might be able to read it when I write it, but can they read it when they see it on a machine? Unfortunately, I didn't have enough of these to send home with all of you, but you can Google something like this or just put it in different fonts for them to practice. That way, I mean, this one's actually kind of hard to see, which was great because it made them focus more on finding that correct money and then using the dollar up. But again, you can use it on the computer. So that covers several of the students' specific goals and things that I sent home. Some of you also received actual telephones to practice on. If your son or daughter has mastered it on that telephone, I suggest using an actual smartphone, which is more realistic to what someone would give them if they had to suddenly call home. Some of you also, in addition to having the phone number sent home, had like a little folder with laminated papers in it. It's different for each student. Some students are practicing writing their phone number in addition to typing it into the phone. Some students are practicing writing their name. Some students are practicing writing their name in cursive. It's a little bit different for each student, but just go ahead and look in there. Anyone who had that sent home also had a wet erase marker. Basically, they write on it, and you need a wet cloth to clean it off the next day, or we just put it under the sink, clean it like a dish, and then dry it off. If they could do that every day, that would be awesome. That's what we do in class, just to help them gain that functional academic skill. I sent home our behavior token charts for a couple of the students, which basically is like a pencil pouch, but they use it to pick a preferred item that they're working for, and then each task they earn $1. In class, it depends how frequently they earn $1, depending on the student. Some of them earn it more frequently than others. But it's your discretion at home. So if you want to have them do a work task and earn $1, or finish doing their writing and earn $1, or do their dollar up and earn $1, perfect. Micah, specifically for you, I had sent home this number line, which is something we use with him all the time in class. So for instance, when he's practicing his phone number every time he puts in his phone number, he gets one of those numbers on the number line. And then once he reaches 5, he gets $1. That way that way he's practicing his phone number or address 25 times as opposed to only 5 times to get those dollars. And you can use it with any task as well. Make him work longer to earn it. The students' colored binders that I had sent home the past couple weeks are something that we would do instantly when they come to class every day. The idea is that they work on it completely independently. A few of the students need help only because when you turn away, they'll close it and put it away. But the idea is to try and have them do it daily, if possible at home. Again, no stress. If not, just trying to help as much as I can. Lastly, each of the students were sent home with some work task or several work tasks. Yesterday at school, I basically sent everything I had home to different students. So that way I tried to provide enough that you can vary it up. However, in class I have like 30 of them that I can switch between the students so they don't get bored of them. With you only having 2 or 3 at home, they're gonna get bored of it. So I suggest using other things around the house to help them practice as well, like sorting silverware or anything you have that's little and different colors, like Legos, for instance, they can sort. Coins they can sort, dollar bills they can sort, well, dollars, 5s, 10s, whatever you have around the house. Different things like that they can practice sorting, or if you have things that can be assembled, they can practice assembling it or taking it apart. Learning to put in batteries is a life skill that would be important for them to learn. Different things like that. If you need any other ideas, I can send home pictures and things. Just kind of gotta get creative with being stuck at home. Again, if there's anything that I didn't cover, please don't hesitate to call me or message me, and I'll do my best to get back to you about that and about your specific student. Goals that we can't address through these task boxes, I'm going to try and address digitally to the best of my abilities in this time. Yeah. And if any of this is causing more stress to you or your son or daughter, don't panic, don't do it. Like, take a break. If they're communicating that they want a break, that's awesome. We want to encourage that. So no stress.